Hey, Mr. D'Angelo. This is Christian Steicher, and this is our cinema research film. Following me will be Molly Reeves, Mateen S, and Stephen Shakiba doing their own projects. So my topic and the rest of my group's topic is science fiction in our own big topic, cinema. I decided to choose the era between the 1970s and 2000. I decided if I needed to choose a movie series, it would have to reflect the social, political, and religious themes of that time. So I chose Star Wars Episodes 1 through 6. Below you can probably see my thesis. The general gist is that Star Wars is reflecting upon our society, its social and political themes, so I'll be following up on that. And the evolution and progression in the galactic universe of Star Wars is a reflection of our own progression in our own society. Okay. Now, I'm going to be talking about social themes, and generally what I'm going to be talking about is the racial tensions in the United States reflected by a mistreatment of the droids in the movies. There's a lot of that in all 6 movies. I'm going to be talking about sexism in the United States with Senator Amidala and Princess Leia being subjected to the damsel in distress roles, negative effects of smoking, which is the death stick scene, and rise of nonconformity, which is Anakin and Padme secretly marrying. I'm also going to talk about religion, and I'm going to focus on the Force. I'm going to talk about the revival of the 1940s. There's an homage to that in episodes 4. And then existentialism rise in episodes 3 through 4. And return to religion in episodes 6, 1, and 2. Okay. So then my third topic is going to be politics. Excuse that you can't see the titles right now. It's just a little bit of a pain. But anyways, the progression is going to be from the original trilogy to episodes 1, 2, and 3. The Empire is going to kind of represents communism. The Galactic Senate represents democracy. And its general light side versus dark side is the U.S. versus USSR. Now, my sources are New World, Old Habits by Kathleen Ellis, Culture, Identities, and Technologies in Star Wars Films by Carl Silvio and Tony Pinchi, and Star Wars: A Myth of Our Time by Andrew Gordon, The Hero's Journey in Star Wars by Lisa Sparks, and Stellar Mythology of Star Wars by Diane Wirt. Now, these are all these sources were found in ProQuest and the San Diego E-Library. Okay, our book sources are The Universe Makers by Donald A. Wollheim, The Dreams Our Stuff Is Made Of by Thomas M. Deesh, and Episode 1, The Phantom Menace Notes by Terry Brooks. Now, I may add more sources, I may take more sources away. I also found these 3 sources in the CCHS library, in case you need to know. But, as I was saying, sources could vary. Now, up next is going to be Mateen Saberi. Alright, thanks, Mr. D'Angelo.
Hey, Mr. D'Angelo. For my part of the project, I focus on Star Trek, its religion, social, and technological influences on society. I focused on the era from 1979 to 2009, so pretty current, the movie series, and of course the 3 topics: religion, social, and technology. Basically, the plot is the Star Trek series created by Gene Roddenberry in 1966 is one of the most successful franchises in American history, with over 11 films, countless television series, books, comics, and even games. The multi-billion-dollar franchise was revolutionary for its time, with its enthralling topic and its jaw-dropping action. Basically, we have to look closer to see the deeper meaning behind it. And the fact of the matter is that Star Trek significantly influenced the American outlook on religion, technology, and social aspects of society. On the religion topic, Roddenberry was secular, so he put his own beliefs, which were atheistic, in his films. His view was that in the 23rd century, everybody would be atheists. The show emphasized the atheism throughout the series by talking about how it is nonsense that has plagued our civilization for thousands of years. But religion is not totally shunned. There are aspects within the film where it shows religion. For technology, Star Trek influenced many technological advances, some including the cell phone, jet injectors, optical tweezers, and many more. So there are over 10 Star Trek technologies that became true. And there's no doubt that this kind of influence on technology changed the way that we function today in society. I truly do believe that. And lastly, there's social aspects. The The original series had one of the TV's first interracial casts. Even featured the first televised interracial kiss, which was a huge influence on civil rights, which was a big topic of discussion at the time. So very progressive when it came to civil rights. And there was lots of sexuality prevalent within the movie series, which we'll get more in depth about. My sources, I had 3 books. One was Sci-Fi in the Mind's Eye, Reading Science Throughout Science Fiction, edited by Margaret Grebowitz. There was basically the history of science fiction from 1926 through 1976 by Lester Del Rey. And then the last one was a collection of essays. Websites, we have 3 websites as well. These websites, very factual. We found these on, I believe, the e-library, and they're all very good sources from online. All right, thank you very much. I'll send it over to Molly.
Within my research paper, I will be discussing how science fiction movies during the 1950s related to major historical events during the same time period. Specifically, how nuclear power, the Cold War, and communism affected the subject matter of many science fiction movies. My thesis statement is, during the 1950s, science fiction movies conveyed Americans' fears and many times panic about the Red Scare, the Cold War, and the new concept of nuclear power. My first resource is War Movies, The Bell and Blade Guide to Classic War Movies by Gary Freitas. It gives the reader insight on what movies during the Cold War and end of World War II were really about. My second resource is An Army of Phantoms, American Movies and the Making of the Cold War by Jay Oberman. It delves into the American pop culture during the time of the nuclear bomb and the Cold War. It explains how these new ideas affected science fiction movies and the American people. My third resource is an internet article called The Red Scare, a filmography. It discusses how the response to the Red Scare was recorded within science fiction films dealing with anti-communism and the fear of communists taking over the world. Another resource is Films of the Cold War, 1948 to 1990, is an internet article that explains how science fiction movies had, in a sense, virtually disappeared from popular culture during World War II and were revived on the onset of the Cold War. My fifth resource is titled 1950s. It is an internet article that analyzes how the fear of nuclear weaponry and communism was expressed through science fiction movies and how this fear developed into mass hysteria. My last resource is an online academic journal titled The Atomic Age, Facts and Films from 1945 to 1965. It discusses how the Cold War and nuclear power affected the film industry and more specifically, science fiction movies. Thank you for listening for what Molly Reeves' research paper will be about.
Hi, I'm Stephen Shakiba, and my research paper is on the 1968 film 2001, A Space Odyssey. My topic for this research paper is how the sci-fi film 2001, A Space Odyssey impacted the social, scientific, and political communities of its time. And below we have 3 pictures representing the 3 spheres of influence. On the bottom left we have a picture from the famous sci-fi movie Star Wars. On the bottom center we have the prominent scientist Dr. Paul Bennett. And on the bottom right we have former President Richard Nixon, who was elected president in the 1968 election. My subtopics for this research paper are the impact the film had socially, the impact the film had scientifically and technologically, and the impact the film had politically. My thesis statement for this research paper is as follows. The 1968 sci-fi film 2001: A Space Odyssey was not merely an ordinary film designed simply to entertain audiences for a short 2 hours and 22 minutes. Rather, it became an influence on society, the scientific community, and the political arena during its time of release to the present day. My sources of information are included here. The first source is a summary on the Apollo program, which relates to the movie because it's based on space travel. My second source is by Tony Shaw, titled The Politics of Cold War Culture, and that combines 2 elements of culture and politics during the Cold War time period. And here are some of my other sources. My third source by Charles Gillis, titled American Cultural History, kind of gives more insight into culture and society during the 1970s. And my fourth source by John Douglas, titled The Cold War Technology and the American University, goes into detail about some of the technological advances in science during the Cold War time period.